Hi, everyone. Looks like our recording has started. I'm Jeff Howard. I am the unit head for Program and Organizational Development and one of the assistant directors with University of Maryland Extension. We wanted to do a short recording, maybe 15 minutes or so, to really give a good overview of our site that supports our faculty as they pursue the expectation to collect teaching effectiveness ratings on an annual basis. So let's connect together about that for a bit. I know many of you that may be watching this may be newer to the organization and are trying to familiarize yourself with that process. So the easiest thing that I've found to do is just to hop to the site where we keep the teaching effectiveness ratings forms and where those are uploaded and so forth. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to walk you through it so that you can become more familiar with it. So this is where it gets a little bit cumbersome because I need to share the screen. And I've actually tried to record this twice and all I did was white screen. So here we are, 3 times a charm. So hopefully that's going to go. So that should pop up just my Zoom room. But so our teaching effectiveness site is kept on a location that we call UME Answers under the ever supportive oversight of Dee Dee Allen. UME Answers has a plethora of supportive information for all of us as faculty members within our Department of University of Maryland Extension, both faculty and staff, for us to draw on. So let's hop to the main topic, which is our teaching effectiveness. With full candor, I can't ever remember the URL for this, so I just go up and type in the search area. You can see it's already popping up because I've already done this 2 or 3 times. I couldn't get the recording to work correctly, but we're going to, we'll just put that in. Hopefully it'll hop over to it, and then we'll look together. So, well, that didn't do exactly like what I thought it was going to, but that should take us. Hopefully, boom, there we go. So UME Answers, as mentioned, there's just a plethora of information that's available to you. So I encourage you, particularly if you're newer, to go and really prowl this site. I know its attention has been drawn to it as you go through your onboarding, whether it's by your program leader, your area extension director, one of the admin assistants, or maybe your mentor has showed you this and so forth. But there's tons of supportive information. So our unit, Program and Organizational Development, has a section to this. And so if you click that, it's going to take you to what we call the big wheel. And within that wheel, there's a section for teaching effectiveness. And I'm just going to open it and we're going to start to work through it. So as this pops up, you'll see the site. So let's check in together a little bit about why this is important. So a couple of things. One is as a university faculty member, you're expected to collect teaching effectiveness rating forms. If you taught on campus here where I'm at, you would, of course, your students here would do an end of course evaluation on the instructor and so forth. Being that the vast majority of our teaching is done out across our state, then we take a little bit of a different process, but it's equally important. So this process is both expected and approved via the provost office and so forth. So all of this has to be vetted through them, and this approved approach has already, it's been done. So this is the process that we use. So the forms are vetted. You can't change the questions. They have to be the same ones that come in each time, and so we'll just kind of step through them. So that was one. It's a university requirement. It's a critical part of promotion, both with tenure, but also for our professional track faculty, for them to promote up within our PTK system. But and then further, at our annual review, as well as your 3-year reviews and so forth. And then once we are tenured, every 5 years, we have a review by a committee of peers, and our teaching effectiveness is reviewed there. So we're all expected to collect it on an annual basis. So those are some requirements. At annual review, your program leaders, or your area extension director will have access to that, but more targetedly, your program leader would go over more intentionally your effectiveness of your teaching as it relates to the programs that you have developed and the feedback that you've received from constituents and clientele that really relates to how effective you've been in conveying that information. So that's something that we should draw heavily on as we continue to try to improve ourselves as an effective teacher, lecturer, instructor, however you want to think about it. But they can be, of course, very helpful. But factually, they are a required element of our review process. So one of the questions I'm more frequently asked is, how many do I have to collect? And so there's not a set number, quite frankly, that has to be targeted. Our recommendation from an administrative team perspective is for you to target, say, 40 to 60 on an annual basis to collect teaching effectiveness forms from clientele, constituents, audience members, et cetera, from maybe 3 to 5 different teaching sessions. So again, if our purpose, although factually it's required, university requires it, it's part of our annual faculty review and so forth, but also us as teachers, we should draw on this to continue to improve ourselves. With that said, we want to make sure that we collect from a broad scope of individuals to give us the best distribution of feedback at a variety of different locations and so forth, so we can draw on that to continue to improve ourselves. So it's a reasonable question. Folks aren't counting them up. Where it is a problem is when you don't have any, or when you've only done 1 or 2 or something like that, that's not going to give you a sufficient overview. And so that's something to target for. So if you work in 4-H youth development, it's a little bit challenging because these forms can only be completed by individuals that are 14 or older. And so that makes it challenging for our 4-H folks. You have to be deliberate about thinking through when you might teach an adult audience, whether it's an adult volunteer group, it's adult leaders, it's a group of parents, maybe a group of teachers that are drawing on some of your curriculum, et cetera. You have to be very deliberate in thinking through that. For all of us, no matter what your program area is, I encourage you on an annual basis to look at your individual extension plan, your IEP, and looking across the spectrum of the calendar year to figure out when and where you'll be teaching and the particular audiences that you'll be at. And will it be conducive to collecting these? Because it's cumbersome. It's work. Data collection is work. So, the forms have to be distributed, or you have to send out the link to people. You have to provide the QR code for them to access. All of that has to be done. So you don't have to collect it every single time you teach, but you probably need to be deliberate to focus on that at a location where it's going to be a little more conducive to capturing that audience. So with that said, think about the calendar year, all the teaching that you have planned, and figure out where you're going to intentionally target to collect teaching effectiveness from. So the easiest thing that I found to do is, of course, once the site is open, is just to walk through it with you. So there's a variety of ways that you can draw on our forms. They're 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, basically that could be drawn on. And within that, you can do this a variety of ways. However you choose to collect it. If you're going to collect directly from your audience, there are, on site, there are paper forms that can be accessed. So those paper forms are broken out by your major program areas. So you click your program area, that's going to open the form. It's pre-populated, and the questions are already on it, and easy peasy. So, but you have to think through, how will you distribute those? Our advocacy to protect the rigor of the process and so forth is that you ask a colleague who may be in attendance, or maybe if you're the only one there, maybe ask an audience member that would be willing to, once those are distributed at the end of your session, as you're wrapping up, say, hey, as a university faculty member, I'm required to collect teaching effectiveness, but additionally, it helps me to become a better, more effective teacher. So I would appreciate any feedback that you're willing to provide. Totally your choice, of course, as an audience member, whether they complete it and so forth. But anyway, then they're distributed out, or maybe you handed them one when they came in the door as part of their materials, however you chose to do it. But at the end of it, to kind of protect the rigor and confidentiality of the individuals that completed it, I would encourage you to have someone else collect those back up. Provide them with an envelope. They can just slip all of those in there, and then you seal it up. Then you take it back to your office, maybe an admin assistant, maybe you have a student worker, somebody that could help, or you yourself may have to end up doing it. But you just go into the site that I'll demonstrate here in a minute, and show you how you could go in and then translate the written form, the radials, they're going to ink them in or color them in, and you just put it into the site and then, crunch the data, crunch the form, and it'll upload into the system. So if you're going to use Paperform, this is it. You just open it, it's open, print you 50 copies to take with you to the session and so forth. Now, there's also some more contemporary approaches that can be drawn on. So just to show you those very quickly, and we're going to actually open one of these in a moment, but I just want to show you through the whole site and what's available to you. So you can copy this link. If you clicked on this, it's going to take you to the location. You can take that link, and let's say it's at the conclusion of your workshop. Afterward, you've, of course, via registration, you've collected everyone's emails and so forth. Maybe you send them a subsequent note. Hey, glad to have you with me. Here's some additional materials, or, here's my slide set, or whatever it happens to be. And by the way, would you be willing to collect, or rather complete, a teaching effectiveness rating form? And here's the link to go to. So in a second, though, I'll show you, if you do that, it takes a little bit of further instruction because there's some steps that they're going to have to follow. So in your email, you can preempt that by explaining, what they need to do once they get to the site. But you can email that link to them. Also, though, this is probably the second most probable way to collect a good number is to use a QR code that you have available, either on a little postcard that's available on the tables, or you could put it on the materials that you're using, maybe on your agenda on the back or something like that. But there's a principal QR code. And of course, they just take their phone, and just like we've all done 100 times nowadays, it's how you look at a menu in a restaurant. They just click on it, and it's going to open the teaching effectiveness rating, and you just, they can click. It literally could take them 30 seconds to do it. There's a comment box. That's where I find some of the most valuable feedback, that qualitative component that can be drawn on. So I'm hopeful people take time to do that. But factually, they could just do the radio. There's 5 questions. They could do it very quickly, and then they submit it, and you're good. And then at the end of all of the collective, at the end of the year, it's all aggregated together, and your collective teaching effectiveness rating is provided as part of those processes that I had mentioned earlier. So that QR code can be provided, and of course there's also a postcard that already has it on there. If you wanted to mail a postcard to people with the QR code to do it, you can email it out. As I said, take the hard copy or put the QR code on the back of the agenda. Many ways that you can do this, and then for ease. So all of our program areas are represented, and then there's also a specialized one for our SNAP-Ed folks for that program that's under FCS, and so that's provided as well. So that entire site can be drawn on for those to be uploaded. One other piece I mentioned about the collecting from clientele and so forth. The other forms that you need to complete are from peers or an administrator. We ask that you collect 3 a year. And so literally when you go up for tenure, if you're on a tenure track position, or you go up for further promotion to principal agent or full professor, or if you're promoting within tenure track up to the next level, folks are going to look back that every year you have a set that had been provided, and then secondly that they'll look at those ratings, those comparative ratings, and then further that these peer or administrative forms have been provided as well. So that can be done a variety of ways. If they're on site, you can say, hey, would you mind completing one when you get back to the office? Or maybe if someone was there, you could send them an email and say, would you mind filling out a peer form for me? And then of course you could ask your program leader to do that, or if the area extension director comes to one of your programs, for one of the administrative ones. So, okay, we're at 14 minutes. So I want to hop over to actually show you the form itself. So we're going to pick on 4H because it just happens to be the first one here. But if you were to have provided that link to someone that I mentioned, like email it out, or the paper form, this is what it's all going to look the same. So I'm just going to open that. But there's some things that you might need to provide for these folks. So when you open it, it's going to, Dee Dee has these broken out by program areas. There's 4, we mentioned about SNAP-Ed as well. our unit, our program and organizational development unit has one too, because of we don't align specifically with the program area, but as some of us being faculty members, we still have to complete these just like everyone else. So anyway, you would have to tell them, be ready if you emailed that link out to say you'll have to pick my name and make sure that they, your email signature makes it clear who it's from and so forth. We're going to pick on Chris Anderson today. How about that? And then, of course, the date. You may need to remind them the date that they were at one of your programs. So I'm going to scooch back into December to just make it easy. Let's say I was at something the 20th. So that's going to populate. You're going to see that right there. In 4-H youth development, they also have this broken out by 6 primary areas of priority or focus that the programs support. So you would more likely need to have provided that to the people if you emailed them to say, my program today concentrated under our area of focusing on developing leadership skills for life. So they would click that, and then it just starts in on the questions. So there's 5 questions: effective in communicating, responsive to participant concerns, were they well prepared, I learned a lot, maybe they didn't, hopefully they did, but these ratings can help you to know. Of course, if you get a whole lot of folks saying disagree and strongly disagree, then you need to reassess like what was going on, and hopefully they would have provided you some comments down here in this box that maybe gives you a little more insight to why perhaps we were not as effective with that educational program as what we had intended. And then, of course, overall, they give you a rating here as well. And this is another piece that's an aggregate that's provided. So at the end of it, if it's you, if you brought the forms back, or an admin assistant, a support staff member, a student, somebody is putting these forms in, they say, would you like to evaluate another instructor? If you have a big stack, they need to click yes, because it's going to open the form again. But if it's a one-off, if you sent them the link and they complete it on use the QR code, or you sent them an email link, then they'll just say no, and then they do submit. So I'm not going to actually submit this because I don't want to skew Chris Anderson's summary summative rating. But as was mentioned, the others are, by program area, that's the exact thing that's going to open up. So you can email the link. This is what the people's going to see. You can provide the QR code. This is what they'll see on their phone or on their tablet or something like that. Or you can do the paper form back and then have that collected up, put it in an envelope and seal it, take it back. And from a rigor perspective, ideally, it's better if someone else enters that data for you. And then after submit, then at the end of the year, then all of those, because these are separated out by individual faculty member, then those will they'll all be aggregated together. So that's it. That's the quick overview. So remember, you have to do it annually. We're looking for you to collect 40 to 60 from 3 to 5 different locations. 3 peer or administrative forms need to be collected as well. You have to be deliberate and intentional as you think about the process with which you would use to distribute that and so forth. So think through that as you collect those up. If you need to reach out and hear more about that process or something, feel free to reach out to any of us, your mentor, your AED, your program leader, or I'm happy to take a conversation with you. Just reach out to me, jwhoward@umd.edu, and we can connect and we can chat through it just a bit further. So I'm going to stop the recording and then we'll end this session. So take care. And again, reach out if you have any questions or we can provide any further clarifications.